The Boomerang effect, how U.S. power plays backfired on the global stage. Flint West reporting. All right, let's slow this down, because this one isn't about ideology. It's about mechanics. Here's the statement, clean and simple. Everything the United States has done over the past couple of decades to assert its dominance has quietly trained the rest of the world how to live without it. That's not a hot take, that's a pattern. And once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. Section 1. Let's start with the mistake at the center of everything. America confused leverage with permanence. It saw choke points, money, trade, technology, energy, finance, and assumed that because it controlled them today, it would control them forever. So it started using them, openly, aggressively, repetitively. And every time it did, it sent the same message to the world. Your dependency on us is a liability. The moment that lesson landed, the boomerang was already in the air. Section 2. Take Venezuela. The move was supposed to be clean. Remove the leader, disrupt Chinese influence, reassert hemispheric control. But Venezuela wasn't a blank slate. It had contracts, it had oil for loan deals, it had obligations. So suddenly, the United States isn't disrupting a system, it's managing one. Oil revenues routed through accounts it now oversees, payments tied to deals it didn't write. Debts owed to China that don't just evaporate because power changed hands. That's the first self-own. You don't eliminate complexity by stepping into the middle of it. You inherit it. Section 3. Then there's Huawei. The logic sounded airtight. Cut them off, starve them of US tech, cripple their ecosystem. Instead, something much more dangerous happened. Huawei didn't collapse. It adapted. No Google? Build your own operating layer. No chips? Rebuild the supply chain. No Western approval? Turn self-sufficiency into a national objective. What was supposed to be a punishment became a mission. And missions don't stop when sanctions expire. That's not weakening a rival. That's accelerating one. Section 4. Then came the financial plumbing. SWIFT, dollar clearing, correspondent banking, the invisible stuff, the stuff everyone assumed was neutral until it wasn't. Iran, Russia, Venezuela, disconnected, isolated, sanctioned. And in that moment, every country on earth learned the same lesson. Access is conditional. Once money stops being neutral, trust stops being permanent. So alternatives appear, not because they're better, but because they're safer. New payment rails, new settlement systems, new bilateral arrangements. You don't have to beat the dollar, you just have to route around it. And the moment that becomes possible, dominance starts leaking, slowly, quietly, structurally. This content is brought to you by Bobby Giggs. Promote your brand here and reach a wide audience across platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Follow the links in the description to get started. Section 5. Then came tariffs. The idea was simple. Raise costs, extract concessions, force alignment. What actually happened? Trade rerouted. China stopped buying American soybeans. Brazil stepped in. American farmers lost export markets. Washington stepped in. Subsidies replaced sales. Taxpayers replaced customers. That's not leverage. That's self-financed damage control. And the relationships China built with alternative suppliers? Those didn't disappear when the tariffs did. Once a buyer moves on, they don't forget who forced them to. Section 6. Then the chip war. The crown jewels. Cut China off from advanced AI chips. Slow them down. Freeze the future. China's response wasn't to beg. It was to counter-weaponize. Rare earths, critical minerals, magnets that go into jets, missiles, robotics, defense systems. The dirty, unglamorous stuff no one wanted to mine. Except China already did. So the United States learned a hard truth. You can't sanction physics. China found workarounds for chips. The US can't magically conjure rare earth supply chains overnight. That's a symmetric vulnerability exposed by asymmetric thinking. Section 7. And then there's the quietest shift of all. Reserves. For decades, the world saved in US treasuries. Not because America was perfect, but because it was predictable. Now predictability is gone. Sanctions, debt expansion, political volatility. So central banks did what central banks always do when trust erodes. They bought gold, not for yield, for neutrality. And every dollar that goes into gold is a dollar that doesn't go into treasuries, which means higher yields, higher borrowing costs, less room to maneuver on $38 trillion of debt. That's the final boomerang. The very system that once financed American power cheaply now asks to be paid more for the risk. Section 8. Here's the through line. The United States didn't lose power because it acted. It lost power because how it acted taught the world how to leave. Sanctions taught substitution. Tariffs taught diversification. Chip bans taught redundancy. Financial weaponization taught distrust. Every move made sense in isolation. Together, they formed a curriculum, and the world graduated. Section 9. This isn't collapse, it's erosion. Slow, structural, compounding. Power doesn't vanish when people rebel. It vanishes when they no longer need you. That's the boomerang. You throw dominance outward, and it comes back as alternatives. And once alternatives exist, the center no longer holds by default. That's not a moral judgment. That's physics. And physics doesn't care who used to be in charge. Flint West signing off.